Hi there, today in this video we are learning how to add or take away the algebraic fractions. So to begin with the first example, we are having x over 3 plus x over 4. These are the two algebraic fractions where between them is a positive operation. So we are adding these two fractions. Whenever we need to add or take away the two fractions, the first step we're supposed to do is to make the denominators to be same. So I'm going to try to make the denominators the same number. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 and the top and the bottom by 4. So because I multiplied the denominator by 4, I have to multiply the same number with the numerator as well. To make it 3 times 4 is a 12, I'm going to make the 12 with the second fraction denominator as well. To make 12 as a second fraction denominator, you multiply the denominator by 3, and because you're multiplying the denominator by 3, you need to multiply the numerator with the same number. Once we make the denominators to be the same, we're going to write them down in a simplified form. So we're having x times 4, which is 4x. The denominator is 4 times 3 is 12. Then with the next fraction, the numerator is 3x because 3 times x is 3x and the denominator is 12. Once we have got the same denominator, we can write down the denominator just once, which is a common denominator 12. And we add the numbers we have got in the top. So we're having 4x plus 3x, we're going to add them together. When we add 4x plus 3x, we would have 7x in the numerator and the denominator is 12. Showing you the next example now. So the next example on adding or take away the algebraic fraction, we are having a over 2 minus a minus 1 over 3. So we have got the numbers in the denominator and we have got some terms written in the numerator as well. So first we're going to make the denominators to be the same. I'm going to multiply the denominator by 3 and the top by 3 of the first fraction. Now to make number 6 with the second fraction denominator, we're going to multiply the 2 with the second fraction denominator and we multiply with the same number on the top as well. We're going to do the simplification now. So the numerator is now 3a and the denominator is 6 minus. When you multiply 2 with a minus 1, be careful that this 2 will going to multiply with both the terms. So we're going to write them down together in the bracket and the denominator is going to be 6. Once you have got the common denominator, you write down the denominator once, which is 6. You write down the numbers, what you have on the top of both the fractions together. So we are having 3a minus 2 bracket a minus 1. We're going to expand the bracket and do the simplification after. So when you expand the bracket, you're having 3a. Because there's a minus 2 outside the bracket, you're going to multiply them out by minus 2 with both the terms inside the bracket. So to expand them out, you're having minus 2 times a would be minus 2a. The other one is negative and negative makes a positive, and because you multiply by 2 with 1, you'll get 2. The denominator is 6, so we're going to write down 6 in the denominator. Now to have that, what you're going to do in the numerator is to simplify. So 3a minus a would be just a plus 2 and the denominator is 6. We see that we have got the term written in the numerator with a and the denominator is just 6, so we can't simplify it more, and that would be the simplified form of subtracting the two fractions. Having the third example now, which is v plus 3 over 2 plus 3v plus 1 over 5. I'm going to do the same thing to try to make the denominators to be the same. So times by 5 here and times by 5 at the top. Times by 2 here and times by 2 at the top. We have got the common denominator now, which is 10. This 5 we're going to multiply with both of them. So whatever the terms written inside the bracket. So we're going to write it down in a bracket 5. And then we are having v plus 3 plus 2, 3v plus 1. Remember, this 2 is going to multiply with the whole of 3v plus 1. And this 5 is not going to multiply with one term, but we're going to multiply with both the terms. That's why it's always better to write it down in a bracket form. The next step is we're going to expand the brackets. So when you expand the bracket, whatever the term written outside the bracket, you're going to multiply them with both the terms written inside the bracket. So expanding bracket would be 5v plus, when you multiply 5 with 3, you would have 15. The next bracket expansion would be when you multiply 2 with 3v and you multiply by 2 with 1. So the next term would be 6v plus 2 times 1 is 2, and you're having a denominator which is 10. Now you're going to do the simplifying fractions. So before you simplify the fractions, we're going to try to do it separately. We're going to simplify the numerator first. We do the collecting like terms, so we are having 5v and plus 6v. When you add 5v and 6v together, you will get 11v here. And then when you're going to simplify the next two terms, which is plus 15 and plus 2, you'll get plus 17. And the denominator is 10. We can't simplify it more, so that's the most simplified form we can write down the answer into. Now here's the next example, so which is example number 4. And showing you the example number 4 would be b over 7. Then there's minus w plus 2 over 5. Now we are having two fractions, and between them is a takeaway sign. Whenever there's a takeaway sign between the two fractions, you need to be more careful, and whatever you're writing it down, make sure you're writing it down in a bracket form to avoid any sort of sign mistake. I'm going to begin with making the denominators to be the same. So times by 5 and times by 5 here. On the other side, I'm going to do times by 7 and times by 7. Once we would have a common denominator, which is 35, we're going to write it down. And on the top, we are having b times 5 would be 5b. The next term we are having is minus. Because you're going to multiply the 7 with w plus 2, you write down w plus 2 in a bracket form. So now you're going to expand the bracket and simplify it more. So 5b remains as 5b. Now you're expanding the bracket means you're multiplying minus 7 with both the terms inside the bracket. So when you do minus 7 times w, you would have minus 7w. When you do minus 7 times plus 2, you would get minus 14. And now we have got a denominator which is 35. Now you see that in the numerator, we are having a term written with b, another term with w, and another one is just a number. So we can't simplify, we can't do collecting like terms with any of them. So whatever we're having now is the simplified form. With example number 5, we are having 2 over 3y minus 1 over 5y. Now it's not just the numbers we are having in the denominator, but we are having a number and the variable in the denominator. What we have to do, the first thing is to make the denominator the same. So you times by 5 here and you times the 5 at the top. Where you on the other side, you're going to times by 3 here and you're going to times by 3 here. You're going to simplify the fraction. So it would be 2 times 5 would be 10. The denominator is 3 times 5 is a 15y. The next fraction numerator would be 3 times 1 is 3. And the denominator is 15y. So we are having a denominator which is 15y. Once you have got the same denominator, now you do the same thing to write down the common denominator here. And whatever the numbers you see on the top, you write them down together, which is 10 take away 3. You simplify them. When you do 10 take away 3, you would have 7 in the numerator and the denominator is 15y. Now you get to the stage where you have some term in the numerator and denominator. You see that, can you simplify it more? So looking to the numbers 7 and 15, they don't go in the same times table. So this is the most simplified answer we can have. Now, to show the next example, now we are having 3x plus 1 over 4 plus 2x minus 1 over 3. We're going to do making the denominators the same. So we're going to start by timesing this by 3 and times this by 3, where the other fraction top and the bottom both multiply by 4. So you see that in the numerator, you're having 3 times 3x plus 1. So we're going to write it down in a bracket form now. So 3 would be outside the bracket. So we're having 3 here and inside the bracket would be 3x plus 1. The denominator of the first fraction is 12. There's a plus sign in between. Now this 4 is going to multiply with both the terms. So we're going to write it down in a bracket form and the common denominator is 12 then. Once we reach the stage where we have got the same denominator, we write down the denominator once, the common denominator, which is 12. And once you're having 12, you're going to copy down what you have in the numerator. So we're having 3 bracket 3x plus 1 is the numerator of the first fraction. The other one is 4 times 2x minus 1. Now what you're going to do is you're going to expand the brackets and simplify them after. So expanding the bracket would be 3 times 3. You're going to multiply them together, which gives you 9x plus 3. When you're going to multiply them together, you will be having 4 times 2 is 8x minus 4 and the denominator is 12. Now this is the stage where possibly you can do collecting like terms because I can see that there's a 9x and there's a 8x. Because we are having the same terms, we add them together. So we'll be getting 9x plus 8x would be 17x. Now we are having plus 3 and minus 4. So here you see that we are having plus 3 and minus 4. When you do plus 3 and minus 4, you'll get minus 1 and there is a 12 in the denominator. Now I'm showing you the last example of this algebraic fractions. Now we are having 1 over x plus 1 plus 4 over x minus 2. Now we see that we have got different denominators, which what we have been doing. Now we have got the denominators written in the form of x plus 1 and x minus 2. Because our first step is always to try to make the denominators to be the same. So it's always easy with the numbers. But to do with the variables in the denominator, you times this by x minus 2 and the numerator would be times by x minus 2 as well. Where the other top and the bottom will going to multiply by x plus 1. So this would be x plus 1 and the numerator would multiply with x plus 1. Once you do that, you're going to write it down as a denominator now. So with the first fraction, now you see that you're having two denominator. One is x plus 1, another is x minus 2. On the top you're having is 1 times x minus 2. There's a plus sign in between. Now we're going to write down the denominator of the second fraction, which the first bracket is x plus 1, the other bracket is x minus 2. And in the numerator, we're having 4 times x plus 1. Once we get to the stage where we have got the same denominator, we're going to write them down as a common denominator, which is x plus 1 and x minus 2. With the numerator, we're going to write them down first and expand it after. So 1 times x minus 2 plus 4 times x plus 1. You're going to expand out the brackets and do simplification afterwards. So when you multiply 1 with any terms inside the bracket, it's not going to change anything but remain the same because you're multiplying with 1. To do the multiplication by 4, you do 4 times x would be 4x, and then 4 times 1 would be 4, and the denominator which stays the same. So here you need to remember that because we are writing it down in the simplified form, we never expand the denominator, but we keep them in the factorized form, which is writing them down in the bracket form. We're going to do the collecting like terms on the top now. So we see that we have got the x variable which is here and plus 4x which is here. So when you do x plus 4x, the simplification of that would come out as 5x. Now you're having minus 2 with plus 2. So when you do minus 2 plus 2, you will get plus 2. And as I said, we'd never expand the denominator. We keep them in a bracket form because we are writing it down in the final answer in the simplified form. So here we have got the simplification of a type of a question where we don't have just the numbers in the denominator, but we have got some variables in the denominator as well.